about the unplanned place. What do you do when you end up in an unplanned place? What do you do when you end up in an unplanned place? What happens when your life and your story is not unfolding like you thought it would? But you know that you got a word from God, and you know your gifting is conspicuous, and you know God has something for you to accomplish. What happens when you find yourself in an unplanned place, an unplanned place? I mean, no one could pay you to believe that in February 2013, this is where you might be in your career. I mean, no one could pay you to believe that, oh my God, I've been unemployed now 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year, and now you're in an unplanned place. I mean, you walk down the aisle and you guys had all of these aspirations together, and then all of a sudden you come home and unfortunately maybe your spouse tells you that they want a divorce, and now you're in an unplanned place. I mean, what happens when you spend all that money and you go to graduate school and now you have 1 year of postgraduate experience, 2 years of postgraduate experience, 3 years of postgraduate experience, and all of a sudden you don't like your job, you hate your job, and now you're in an unplanned place. I mean, what happens when you raise your children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, and you take them to Bible school, and you take them to Bible classes, and you read them Bible stories when they're infants, and all of a sudden they come home, and all of a sudden they get in trouble, perhaps they get arrested, or perhaps they get pregnant out of wedlock, and now you're in an unplanned place. What do you do? This is why we're going to study this man Joseph, because he's the poster child for handling unplanned places. Now, as we get into the story, one thing you got to know about the unplanned place is it would be all right if you were in the unplanned place for a day. It would even be okay if you were in the unplanned place for a month. Some of you could deal with it for 3 months or even a year. But what happens when you're in the unplanned place and the time is going by at an unplanned pace? What happens when you wake up and you're in a foreign place? For Joseph, it's Egypt, but you're looking at foreign circumstances. I mean, in Atlanta, people bought into the housing market. I mean, a house is a good investment. Houses only go up. They don't go down. Now it's the 4th worst market in the country. What happens when we experience, where you got to invest in the stock market? It's part of the American dream, and then you witness a 20 or 30 or 40% correction during bad economic times, and you're in an unplanned place. I mean, what happens when you're 40 years old and your husband trades you in for 2 20s? You're in an unplanned place. What do you do? We study this man's life because he gives us so many clues as to how do I handle the unplanned place.